Mapper. They do have a paid software as a service subscription that goes a little bit further, but I was pretty blown away not only by their demo, but just the capabilities that came out of the box with this open source. So for today's video, we're going to be covering at a high level what is Threat Mapper, how you use it, how it supports multi-cloud as well, and a lot of the capabilities where I think when we're thinking about observability, vulnerability, secret scanning, and then going all the way past that to a cloud native application protection platform. From an open source perspective, this one's pretty up there as far as the depth and features that it has, and we'll go through that as well. But we'll start off here with what this looks like from an architectural standpoint. So I did deploy a few nodes in GCP using the Google Kubernetes engine. Effectively, the way deepfence works is you have to deploy a management console. Once you're in the management console, you'll get populated a API key. You'll also use a couple of Helm charts if you're running this in Kubernetes, right, to deploy what we call the deepfence router. This is basically will provision an external load balancer, right? So this will say external LB on your local cluster, and I'll go into what that breaks down to as well in another screen so we can kind of see the breakdown. But once you have the router up and exposed and you have that API key, you basically start adding sensors to that specific agent, right, essentially, across your K8's clusters, right, regardless of where they're at. So they can be in AKS, they can be in EKS, etc., right? So this does support multiple clusters as far as that's concerned. So let's go back to our Cloud Console here so you can see what we're doing. So if I do a kubectl get pods, right, I'll do an wide. So there's going to be a lot running here. So effectively what we're seeing is how deepfence is working, right? So we have the API, the backend, and we have the diagnosis container as well, or pod, if you will. And we have a couple other things going on. Now, of course, this is quite a good amount of resources that you're going to need from the cluster's perspective, right? But also, mind you, if I run a kubectl get nodes, if you're going to set this up, as you can see, I'm running 3 nodes with some 12 GPUs. So I did high on the GPUs just because if you want a lower image, just depending how you're provisioning, make sure you at least have a good amount of CPUs for this one. I ran into issues previously in running this in a Kind cluster. So we have a couple nodes here, right? Now, once we go back to what that breaks down to in when we do a kubectl get services, so I'll show you what that looks like. So as you can see, we have that external IP, right? So that's effectively where we're going to work out of. That's that management console. So going into what deepfence is, right? So we're here. I've mapped a K8 cluster in GKE. So what we're seeing here is kind of what I ran a scan as well. So you're seeing on the right side what that scan breaks down to. I have 4 medium, 2 high, but they're really good with visuals. They even have attack paths as well. And then it even breaks down your inbound, outbound. So similar if you're running observability tools, think of like Cilium if you're using a Hubble, right? Or anything that shows you kind of your north, south, east, west traffic, along with the containers and processes. And it even breaks down metadata. So it's pretty unique in that sense. So let's dig into this here. So what we're going to do is show you what that breaks down to from the interactive dashboard part of this essentially. So we can see we have a cluster here, a prod cluster deployed in US East. Now I can go a step further and then click more information. And as you see, then I can break down what that metadata is, right? So now let's take a look at the cluster. That's primarily what I wanted to cover today. So I have my cluster here. It's picking up all those nodes, as you can see, right? So now when I break out into that node, I effectively populate this really granular, cool looking dashboard. As you can see, you can drag and drop. And on the right, I'm prompted with what those scans are, what's the average CPU, memory. And then when I hit scan, you have configure and start your scan, right? So you can have open source packages, you can check specific languages, right? And then you also have advanced options where you can do the entire cluster, right? So just to show you what that looks like, let's say I do that. You'll effectively kick that scan off, and then if you do a secret scan, you can do that as well, and it'll queue that up for you. So really easy when it's out of the box, right? Let me exit out of this real quick, and that'll run in the background there. So as you can see, let's explore attack paths, right? So this is one of those areas you see noted by a lot of vendors for a paid service. So this is really interesting here, and it even breaks down what CVEs are affected and what are those ports and what's that attack vector, right? And then we can see effectively how that breaks down from the inbound traffic to the outbound as I showed earlier, right? So let's see let's see if we can drill down into those attack paths specifically. But when I saw this the last time at KubeCon, I wanted to understand more about A, what is going on, B, how you can operationalize this, but the context that they were able to show through this, right? So if I go through those 6 vulnerabilities in my cluster, this is what's going on here. So it looks like we have some open CVEs with Medium, and then we have straight to the documentation, right? Okay, yeah, it's just that page. So let's just click on this one. Just the amount of context they provide out of the box. So what you're seeing here is a breakdown effectively of what that CVE is, and then you can kind of see what's the assigned score, the description. So it's all in the same console, right? You can also go back, or you can copy as JSON, right? You can go back, you see you have a search module here where I can kind of drill down specifically on a refresh, right? But we got some stuff to visibility right out of the box from a scanning perspective, right? So let's click that. Let me see here. And those are those same ones mapped likely because we only scan the cluster. So if there was a most exploitable vulnerability, that would be populating there. As far as the attack paths, I think since I dismissed it, that's not showing up now. But you can see here, right, the unique vulnerabilities. So it looks like Python's making up a good portion of that. The visuals are just really quick, straight to the point, but also the user experience is really smooth on this system. When I saw this as a demo, I was like, I had to try this out to get some more info on it, but I also wanted to see under the hood what how it was able to map to different clouds as well. So they use Terraform effectively for some other areas that if you want to integrate, such as like your AWS account, Google Cloud account, right? So there's capabilities that go even further. I ran a secret scan, and from the secret scan, we can see what secrets are essentially high, right? So I can see I have a WordPress config that is high, so that is definitely of a concern, right? If I have, let's see this, because I don't recall installing that. Okay, DB okay, that's something else from there. Never mind. But as you can see, just this visual alone, I can also look at AWS session keys. I also have a high username and password and a URI, right? And then it gives you that context broken down and what that area looks like. So let's go back now. So that's effectively your secret scan. Similar to the other screen, it's going to break down what secrets are in the cluster that it finds right now. This can do either the full cluster or it can do that specific area. So some areas you can scan and some areas won't scan, probably yet in terms of support. So when I was talking about how you onboard some of your accounts here, so I tried to go through the onboarding of my Google Cloud account, but I was having some issues with that one specifically. But as you can see, they provide you even a snippet to initialize this. Once this is done, you can mess with this from the sandbox. You can break down what's the compliance, what's the scan, and then even the total resources that it's scanning. Right, so really, really in-depth when I think of user experience. And then if you had a registry that you wanted to do a vulnerability scan on, so they have these currently supported, right? Quay is a pretty big one, so for you Red Hat people out there, and then Docker Hub as well. But as you can see, they do support your 3 clouds. This is really aimed at having a multi-cloud platform that you can quickly identify the vulnerabilities across that are going on. Okay, so look, it's like our other scan is done and we scan the entire cluster. So it looks like we got some things here. So it looks like it did find some criticality high. So we got some stuff we want to look for. But definitely I just ran the scan in the background. That was the one that we kicked off earlier. So I'll let that run. And let's just go back here. No text, please run. So I'd have to run another scan. Okay. But you can see the user experience is really straightforward, right? Mind you, if you're going to do this in a lab environment, you likely want to use a managed cluster because the way it maps with the provisioner, I ran into some issues. Now you can have your other storage options and it goes through that. But if you're just trying to get quick up and running as far as this demo is concerned, that's why I went with GKE. I use some spot nodes, so if you are deploying this to make sure which nodes are a part of that, right? But as you can see, I'm just playing around with the visual itself, and it's going all over, right? I'm looking at specifically what pods are in that specific cluster, and then it even has an interactive portion where it shows you what is connecting to that. So we see the connections in between. You can drag and drop it as well, right? So really interactive. Now, again, I'm just showing Kubernetes. You could have this with your other virtual machines. This could have your other resources in your cloud environment, databases, I believe as well. So don't feel limited. Definitely check out deepfence. This is one of the other areas I wanted to explore a little bit more, but simply out of the box, the installation is not really hard as far as that is concerned. I wanted to show at least a breakdown illustration from the architectural standpoint, what to do to get up and running. So thank you for watching this.